Surprisingly enough, and I'm even shocked that I'm about to say this, but doom scrolling should not get the blame for the downhill spirals and the lack of motivation that we feel. It is not the problem. It's really only a symptom. We like to blame it for stealing our attention. We like to blame it for keeping us up at night. We like to blame it for wasting hours upon hours in our day. But truth be told, the finger is being pointed in the wrong direction entirely. Real culprit behind the bigger problem and issue at hand right now is that we have an addiction to consuming. Now, yes, I know what you're thinking. Well, we have to consume some type of information, right? We don't go from infancy to adulthood without consuming some type of information. That's how we get through life. However, we are consuming way more than necessary. And we also have to keep in mind that consumption looks totally different now. Consuming content, consuming opinions, consuming identities, consuming entertainment, consuming self-help, consuming news, consuming other people's lives. There's one thing that we have to remember. What we consume begins consuming us. And as that increased consumption continues, it doesn't just influence our habits, it begins shaping who we are. Your beliefs, desires, self-perception, what you think success looks like, where you seek validation from, all of it is directly connected to what you consume or overconsume. And here's the thing that I hate, and I'm guilty of doing this before too, okay? I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but we love to just chunk it up to entertainment. Like, oh, well, it's just a goofy little video. Oh, I'm just laughing. Oh, I'm getting inspiration from this. Oh, I'm just supporting the girls. No. Because if we continuously leave all of that overconsumption unchecked, it causes an identity conflict and an identity crisis within ourselves. So with that being said, it is time. It is time to separate the trends from the truth. Because there is an underlying trend out there that is encouraging us to accept this idea that what we consume is just harmless entertainment. And that is not true. The truth of the matter is everything that you consume, everything, okay? Emphasis on everything. Everything that you consume shapes the quality of your life. We no longer want that consumption to continue to shape our lives. We don't want that. We have to put a stop to it. And if you're going to put a stop to something, you have to acknowledge what has transpired up until this point, which is why we have to talk quietly rewiring, because during this time, what we have consumed has quietly rewired the way that we think. So in order to identify, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Have you ever caught yourself doing or buying something and immediately thought, I don't even know where that came from? Why did I just apply my blush that way? Why am I all of a sudden into ordering or buying Dubai chocolate? Why did I just buy this specific matcha powder when I know for the last 6 months I bought this kind of matcha powder? Why am I all of a sudden into certain outfits or shopping at a certain store that I've never really even looked at twice before? Now, to be fair, none of this is inherently bad. That's not what I'm saying at all, because look, maybe your skills were a little rusty and you needed a new technique to apply your blush in the right way. Maybe you really are a fan of pistachios and chocolate. Maybe you really do enjoy a cold strawberry matcha. I know I do. But here's the question I don't think we ask ourselves enough. And that is, did I choose this, or was I repeatedly exposed to it until it felt like it was my own idea? We have got to understand how incredibly powerful repetition is. And we also have to understand how our brains work. Our brains record and adapt information quickly, right? Our brains are constantly processing and moving and adapting to every single thing that is fed in front of us. That is why we always have to consciously be aware. We have to consciously be alert. Think of your mind like a digital camera for a second. I want you to think of your mind like a digital camera that is set in continuous shooting mode. Now, if you are in continuous shooting mode, the camera's on, the video's on, it's just continuously capturing everything. Now think and keep in mind, there is no filter option here. There is no setting that you could go into in continuous mode that you could program, well, I want you to capture this, but not this. I want you to pan over and then I want you to get this, but not that. There's no filter. It is continuously shooting. So that means it's going to capture image by image, sound by sound. Our brains are the exact same way. It is going to capture non-stop. There is no filter to tell it to stop here and record here, stop there, but take a picture of it. It is just recording and capturing every single thing. So that means every single opinion, every single trend, everything that is out there, your mind is going to capture. This is why the conscious mind is so important. Your conscious mind has a job to do multiple times a day. And it is hard because we have so many thoughts that come through the brain, but we have to make sure that we are thinking and taking time to actually think about what is captured, Think about what our minds are, processing at the moment so that nothing gets filed away that should not be there. It is imperative that you ask yourself questions like, do I actually agree with this? Does this actually align with the values in my life? Is this something that I genuinely want for myself? Or is this something that I have just seen so many times that now it just feels familiar? If we never question it, our minds are going to do what they're built to do, and that is capture it and put it away. It's going to process, put it away, process, put it away. So even if it is something that you do not actually agree with, but you don't catch it in time, it's going to automatically plop it in the back of your subconscious mind. Every single day, day in and day out, we are exposed to hundreds, probably thousands of ideas. And that's our own ideas, our own opinions, our own desires, our own thoughts, along with all the ideas from social media, right? So that's from podcasts, from television, from advertisements, from friends, from family that are on social media, from strangers online. And the brain, again, at that point is doing what it is meant to do, processing, putting it away, regardless of where the information is coming from. So that means two things can be true. One, maybe you really did need to brush up on your technique, and you really did want to find a new proper way to apply your blush because maybe it just wasn't looking good for you. Or maybe you saw it repeatedly. You saw it so many times, video after video, you kept seeing this blush technique, and then you found yourself doing it without even realizing it because of the repetition that happened in your mind processing and putting away. That is why repetition influences us unless we consciously examine it. When you really pay attention to how the human mind works, and then you also throw in the mix being more consciously aware, you start to realize, well, wait a minute, social media really isn't the enemy. Even influencers aren't the enemy. They're not the problem. The true problem is an unexamined mind. We can't blame advertisements. We can't blame social media. We cannot blame influencers for an unexamined mind. It is your responsibility to examine your own mind. Every day, starting from here on out, you have to ask yourself, I know it's probably gonna get annoying, but you have to ask yourself, do I actually want this? Do I actually believe this? Is this something that actually aligns with what I'm trying to build in my life? Because the quicker you do that, the quicker you reclaim your power of choice. And that is what we all want. We all want our power of choice because that's liberation. You regain ownership of your attention. You regain ownership of your mind. Now you're paying attention to how your brain is processing, and you're no longer just processing and putting away, processing and putting away. Now there's absolutely nothing that can penetrate your conscious or subconscious mind for that matter and get auto-accepted. Now you're guarding your gates. Now you're finding your voice again. You get your style again. You have your true desires again. Now you're actually trying the Dubai chocolate because you want to. And I know, I'm sorry, I keep mentioning the Dubai chocolate because I literally just tried Dubai chocolate for the first time like 2 weeks ago. I was one of those people like, I'm not trying that. It's a trend, it's a fad, it's gonna pass. It sounds disgusting. But honestly, I guess I like pistachios and chocolate because I was a little bit of a fan. But I tried it on my own time. That's all that matters. When it comes down to it, it's more than just simply saying, oh, well, you should experience more than you consume, because a lot of us will tell that as advice, right? Well, just start experiencing more than you consume. That's easier said than done, for one. For two, I don't think that's what we need, really. I think what it really comes down to is we need a mental recalibration. Consuming information has always been a part of life. That's what I said at the beginning of the video. We do not go from infancy to adulthood without consuming some type of information. We cannot get our high school diplomas without consuming some type of information. We cannot get a job. We cannot pay bills and actually live a life as an adult. I had to consume something at some point, just like you. You had to consume some type of information, regardless of where it came from, to get you where you are seated currently as you watch this video. Consuming, however, looks very differently than it did once before. For many of us, and I'm specifically talking to my 30 and uppers, okay? 30 and uppers, the environment that we grew up in as kids looks very differently than it does now. And I'm talking from the aspect of consumption. When we were kids, we had television, we had radio, we had magazines, we had commercials. And then guess what? We went outside. From the time that it was daylight outside until the street lights came on. Yes, I was one of those kids, okay? Outside, at the candy lady's house, over here around the corner at my friend's house. We didn't have phones to call home, okay? We were just outside enjoying. Honestly, and I'm gonna digress for just a second. Millennials had the best childhood. The TV shows, the radio, the magazine, the commercials. That was our influence, if you will. That was our influence. I wanted micro braids because I saw Brandy and almost all of the urban hairstyle books. Y'all know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. I can't remember the name of them, but I could see it. I could see it right now. If I could find a picture, I'm gonna put it on screen. I wanted micro braids because Brandy had micro braids. I wanted a big house because I would see big houses on TV. I wanted to be Taina.
I know I can't wait to see my name in lights.
Okay, I wanted to see my name in lights. So I wanted to be an actress like Taina. Like, y'all remember that show? I used to love that show. Oh, gosh, you know what? I hate that was such an underrated show. I was a big fan of Taina, okay? I thought I was in the Blue Mascara or Silver Mascara, whatever the name of the group was when 3LW was on there. Let me preface before I go into my next thought by saying this. Nothing was impossible back then, just like nothing is impossible now. But there is a major difference. And what's different is that back then, success used to feel distant, if you will. If I could put a word to it, it felt distant. Today, it lives in our pockets. Every time we open our phones, we are invited into someone else's vacation, someone else's promotion, someone else's engagement, someone else's six-figure business, someone else's dream home, someone else's morning routine, someone else's daily life. Opportunity has never been more accessible than it is now. Thinking of it from just that aspect, I think it's a beautiful thing because it gave everybody the same amount of resources, the same ground to stand on, the same starting line to start at. No matter or regardless of what your past circumstances were, everybody got the same opportunity to start at the starting line. Nowadays, what we look at as an ordinary life, somebody could be living their ordinary life, make a video, the video goes viral, and it can drastically change their entire life. That's amazing. That is an incredible opportunity. But there is a flip side to that coin. With every possibility constantly in front of us, it makes it harder to stay locked into our individualized journey. It makes it easier to just keep switching up and trying different routes until we get to the goal, because we see that, oh my gosh, it's working for so many other people, and we see all of the opportunity out there, so we get excited and it makes us just want to keep trying things and switching up. That's the obstacle defeating a lot of human beings right now. When we begin recalibrating our expectations, not based on our own values, but based on what we're repeatedly being exposed to. And that's where overconsumption quietly becomes dangerous. That's where we keep getting tripped up at, right? Because it's altering the way that we think about our lives. That's why so many people are walking around miserable and looking at their life as if it's not enough, because they're constantly being exposed to stuff that is altering the way that they think about their own lives. Honestly, and this is to my 30 and uppers, come on to the front, 30 and uppers, think about this for a second. Comparison like this did not exist when we were kids. It did not exist. When we had TVs, radio, magazines, and commercials, the amount of comparison back then did not exist as it does today. Like, you might have been in high school and you might have compared yourself to the popular girl that always seemed to have, like, she was the most current on fashion. She always had the new clothes. All the boys wanted her. She had the straight A. She was the valedictorian, whatever. You might have compared yourself to her, but that was the extent. Like, it stopped there. Now these kids, like, I could not imagine growing up as a kid today. I just could not, because now these kids are having to compare themselves across the entire world. Like, it don't make no sense. When I was a kid in elementary school, the biggest thing on my mind was, oh my gosh, am I gonna get picked first or second in the kickball game at recess today? Because I was a kickball queen, okay? By middle school, it was, Mom, can I go to Aeropostale to get 2 collared shirts so I can pop my collar? That was the extent of what I thought about. These kids today in elementary school, they're asking for a 10-step skincare routine by 10 years old. By the time they're in middle school, they're asking for exclusive $300 drops of tennis shoes. By high school, they want to live a luxury life and get lip fillers. Somebody help me understand. The exposure is different. It's totally different. And that's not a criticism on this generation, because truth be told, none of us can control what generation we're born into. None of us can control society. Society is ever changing. It's constantly growing. None of us can change that. We just have to be a part of it the best way that we can. So it's not so much that we necessarily need to disconnect from this world. What we really should focus and prioritize is relearning how to operate in this specific society. Like I said, when I was a kid, comparison did not exist the way that it does now. It just simply did not. So how can I maybe take some of those things that I learned back then and instill them now so that I can live a more fulfilled life? How can I become more intentional about how I'm operating and more intentional about what I'm consuming? Exposure changes our expectations long before it changes our behavior. So maybe the question isn't so much how much am I consuming? And maybe the better question is, what is everything I'm consuming teaching me to believe? Because whatever repeatedly enters the mind eventually begins shaping our life. Mental recalibration is how we regain our autonomy. And with that, you regain the ability to get to decide what influences you and what does not. Suddenly you begin noticing things that you never questioned before. Like you can actually pinpoint what no longer aligns. And for some, reclaiming autonomy means letting go of something much heavier, which is bitterness. Bitterness that quietly grows when we're constantly measuring our lives to someone else's highlight reel. I'm gonna give you a quick definition, okay? Remission, the intentional act of withdrawing from society or social interactions to seek solitude, reflection, and personal renewal. Now, if you Google search this, it continues on to say this, and this is something I want you to pay attention to. Derived from the ancient Greek root for hermit or person of the desert, it is a proactive choice to step away from distractions to heal and recalibrate rather than isolating out of bitterness. When we don't recalibrate, we stay locked in this constant loop of distractions, and the distractions are what take away our ability to be present in our lives and have actual happiness within our lives. Maybe that's exactly what many of us need right now. Maybe we need to include a little more remission in our lives to gain or regain our sense of autonomy. We don't have to disappear forever and we don't have to delete every app, but maybe we need to become unavailable long enough so that we can each hear our own thoughts again. If we never step away, the distractions will never stop. The opinions will never stop. The comparison will never stop. The consumption will never stop. The bitterness will never stop. But once you take that step back and you recalibrate and you start reflecting and you start intentionally living again, you don't care at the rate of speed at which everybody else's lives are moving. You don't care. You don't care that you may be behind in life, even though we know that there's no such a thing. For the purpose of this video, we don't feel behind in life anymore. You can spot a trend a mile away now, because now you're in tune, now you're connected to yourself. You actually start feeling like yourself again. You're starting to live for yourself again. Autonomous people usually aren't the loudest people, but they are damn sure the most fulfilled person that you will ever come across, because they wholeheartedly decide what deserves their attention, what enters their mind, and what does not. They're not anti-social media. They're not anti-technology. They are pro-intentional living. They still laugh with their friends. They read books. They cook. They try new recipes. They learn new hobbies. They go to the movies by themselves. They make and knit little chunky blankets. I don't know. They learn how to sit in silence without having to fill every single second with something. Autonomous people experience life instead of documenting it. Now, I don't want you to take that as me saying, well, you said that you can't be autonomous if you're a creator. No, there are many content creators, many influencers. Matter of fact, I can give you one right now. Any, and I'll put her socials right here. Any, she may be probably one of the biggest influencers right now. Like, she has a large following. The one thing that I can say about her, when I look at her, I can tell she's a truly autonomous person. Not impossible. You can most certainly document many aspects of your life. Be a content creator, do the influencer thing, whatever. If that's your desire, you can do it. And you can still be an autonomous person. But it does make it a little more challenging for the person to do it. If you do both, you just have to make it a mission. Like, you have to make it an important self-mission, like within yourself, an agreement you make with yourself to truly remain connected to yourself and promise that you will live just as much as you do online, offline as well. But regardless of whether you are someone online or offline, autonomous people aren't living better because they have more. Autonomous people are living better because it is extremely hard to influence them and penetrate their thinking. I believe each of us could benefit from retiring from being professional spectators. Since the dawn of social media, we have become extremely good at watching life, but not so good at intentionally living life. I want to share something with you. Unless you are someone who's already created like a very specific schedule, many of us wake up and before our feet even touch the floor, before we have brushed a tooth, we have entered somebody else's world. I came across a study from 2013, okay? And it said 84% of smartphone users used an app first thing in the morning, with much of the activity involving emailing, texting, and social media. And I want to think about this. Let's think about this. This was over a decade ago. Basically, almost 2027. We're gonna blink and it'll be 2027. I don't know if that was a blink. That was multiple blinks, but y'all get the point. 84% in 2013. I cannot even imagine what that number looks like today. Seriously, before we even wake up, speak to ourselves, before we have spoken an affirmation to ourselves, before we have even had a single thought about our own day, we're already hearing from other people, their thoughts, their opinions, their ideas, what they had for breakfast. We're hearing and entering everybody else's lives except our own. Immediately when we wake up, phone, when we get in our car, turn on the podcast, when we heat up our food, turn on the TV, when we're waiting in line, we're scrolling, when we're going to clean up, turn on the music. These are not bad things by any means. I love a good podcast. I like listening to music. I will watch YouTube videos. These are not bad things, and that is not the point. The point is we have forgotten how to just simply exist. Hear me when I say this. You are living right now. You are living today. If you are watching me right now, that means you're living today. You are not 5 months from now. You are not 5 years from now. And if you are spectating more than you are experiencing, you are training your mind to believe that life is something that you just watch, not something you experience. And I'm sorry, the Most High did not put us here for that. God did not intend for us to be here and not get a life experience of our own. God did not put us here to just simply watch everybody else get to experience their lives while we are just here. You were here to participate in watching the sunset. You were put here to participate in cooking the meal. You were put here to go on the vacation and see all of the beautiful wonders of the world. That is what we are supposed to do. Everything we consume is not just entertainment. Sometimes it is the very reason behind why you haven't moved your feet yet. The goal isn't consume less for the sake of consuming less. The goal is to be able to experience so much of your own life that consuming anybody else's life seems less appealing. One thing overconsumption can never, ever take away from you is your free will. No matter how much you've consumed, no matter how much influence you feel like you're under, no matter how disconnected you feel from yourself, you still have the ability to choose. And that is one of the greatest gifts we were ever given. So hopefully we were able to separate the trend from the truth, and you are one step closer to creating a fabulous life on your terms. If you found that this video was helpful to you in any way, shape, or form, or you know somebody who can benefit from it, please share. Don't be stingy. No, I'm serious though. Don't be stingy. Go ahead and share, okay? But I really appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me today. And yeah, until next time, my loves.